Hola clase, hoy vamos a hablar de los complementos indirectos, which are indirect object pronouns. And what does that mean to you? I'm hoping you share my idea here. Hope that you remember from gustar that I told you that indirect object pronouns tell you to whom or for whom an action is performed. So to get that word to or the word for in a sentence, when you're doing something for someone or to someone, you have to use an indirect object pronoun. Well, what does an indirect object pronoun or a sentence with one of those pronouns look like? Well, let's look at one in English. We have them in English too. Let's have the sentence, I send a text to you. Alright? As fun as it is, let's diagram this sentence. We start off with the subject. Alright, the subject. Next, send is the verb. And then we're left with two things. These two things are, well, one's an indirect object, one's a direct object. Can you figure out which one is the direct object? Which one says to whom the text is sent? That would be to you. You see the word to. Alright, that would leave a text as being the direct object. Okay, now before we begin, let's look at what all of the indirect object pronouns are in Spanish. Alright, so we start off. Indirect object pronouns tell to whom or for whom an action is performed. The pronouns, you may remember from gustar, we had me gusta, if it was pleasing to me. Te gusta, if it was pleasing to you. Le gusta is pleasing to him or her, or usted, you formal. Nos gusta, and les gusta. Okay, now you heard me say it 5 times. Where does the pronoun go in a sentence? Does it go at the very end, or does it go at the beginning, before the verb? Think back. Me gusta, te gusta, le gusta. You hear that it goes before the conjugated verb. So, placement, where it goes in a sentence, the most common spot is before a conjugated verb, such as gusta. Not gustar, but gusta. If you have an infinitive, you can attach it to an infinitive. What's an infinitive again? It's a verb that ends with AR, ER, or IR before you conjugate it. Alright, now let's translate this sentence. So, I, there we go, it's going to be yo. Okay, we've got the verb is to send. The verb to send is mandar. And we're going to conjugate it, yo mando. So we have a text, simply un texto, and then to you. And you remember, you don't put it at the end. Where do you put it? Before the conjugated verb or attached to the infinitive. Alright, do we see an infinitive here? Nope, but we see a conjugated verb. So now we're going to find the indirect object pronoun that matches to you, which is te. We put it before the conjugated verb. Alright, answering questions. The first question, ¿a quién le das la tarea? To whom do you give the homework? Alright, so now we're going to incorporate not only the subject, but we're going to incorporate someone's name in the indirect object. So a few things to think about here. First of all, we want to see how or if the indirect object pronoun changes, and we want to see how or if the subject of this verb is going to change. So, ¿a quién le das la tarea? What's the subject? The subject in here, you see it in the ending. The subject is tú. That means in the answer we're going to use yo. Alright? And we're going to conjugate the verb in the yo form. So that's doy. Alright? What do I give? La tarea. Alright, now here's the tricky part, the new part. To whom do I give it? I give it to, let's say, Senor Vanyer. That sounds good. So let's put his name here. We're going to use personal a. Alright, there we go. Now, this isn't good enough, but you remember me saying, if you want to get 2 or 4 in a sentence, you have to use one of these. Right now it just says, I give homework, Senor Vanyer. To get the word to in, you got to use this. Now, which one matches with Señor Vanyer? That would be le. Yo le doy la tarea al Señor Vanyer. Okay, how about this one? ¿Me puedes prestar $5? It's always a good question to know. Can you loan $5 to me? All right, so let's do the same thing here. Let's identify the indirect object. Let's identify the verb. Okay. Oh, we've got an infinitive too. So this one again is in the tú form. That tells us that we're going to start with yo right here. Okay. So can you loan $5 to me? Let's say the answer is yes. That's what we want to hear. All right. So sí, yo. Now let's conjugate the verb. Puedo. Now let's say to loan. I'm able to loan. Prestar. And then we have $5. Now, where's the to you part? Here it says, can you loan them to me? Yes, I can loan $5 to you. It would go before the conjugated verb. Sí, yo te puedo prestar $5. Great. But where else can it go? It can be attached to the infinitive, which means we're going to take it from there and we're going to attach it to the infinitive. We leave it prestar and we add te. Sí, yo puedo prestarte $5. Either way, you're saying the same thing. And the last one. ¿Quién les trae la comida a ustedes? I was kind of hungry, thinking about a restaurant, and I wanted to know who brings the food. Notice here, a ustedes, to you all. Who brings y'all the food? Who brings the food to you all? Okay? So, we've got the subject here. We don't really know who it is. That's what they're asking. So, let's say el mesero, the waiter. All right, el mesero. All right, and let's look at the indirect object. We've got les, okay, which in this case, remember, les could be to them, a ellos, to them, a ellas, or like we see here, a ustedes, which is to you all. So if I ask a question, to whom, who brings the food to you all, you would say the waiter brings the food to us, right? Be careful with ustedes. Always ustedes in question, you all in the question, it'll be us or we in the answer. So we're going to put it before the conjugated verb. Nos trae la comida. Done. Facilísimo. Hey, send your questions to me. Adiós.